Ready? All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to open this meeting for the Polk County Board of Commissioners for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. All commissioners are present. Announcements are on the agendas. Extra copies are on the table near the door. First item up is for comments for items that are not on this agenda. Anyone? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to move to approval of the agenda.
What's the move? Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass unanimously. Approval of consent calendar.
I move approval. I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pass unanimously. Length of service awards, Mr. Hawkins. What are you gonna do?
I am here to recognize a few of our employees this morning. They are not able to make it here, but we still want to recognize them on the record. The first we would like to recognize is Kent Nichols in the General Services Department for 10 years of service to Polk County. Second, we would also like to recognize for 10 years of service to Polk County, Rosemary Kennedy. And finally, we will recognize Adriana Zuniga in Community Corrections Department for 15 years of service to Polk County. They were unable to be here, but we will get them their certificates.
You take it over.
Yes, and we do, it's not the end, there's one more.
Should be the end.
We are here to honor Matthew Hawkins with 25 years of experience and service for Polk County. I remember Matt, I've been here longer than 25 years, so I remember Matt when he was young, more hair, able to jump, all those kind of things. Time catches up with you and all of us. But Matt served as an intern in juvenile and then later in the juvenile department, had a short stint in adult corrections, and then became HR and everything else he's doing about 16 years ago, if I'm correct. Matt's been a wonderful employee, easy to supervise. I've only had to supervise him lately, but it doesn't really take any supervision. So I'd like to thank Matt. Oh, there's one more thing I'd like to mention. Over the years, when Matt has been in the hall, people recognize him and think of him as me. So he gets stopped and has to answer a lot of questions, and I'm able to avoid and go to my office. So I am grateful and thankful for that part too. So with that, I'd like everyone to thank Matt for his 25 years of service. We also have a junk food barrel of snacks for Matt.
I'll come in handy on my.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
It's a good thing you started out young. You can still do another 25.
Yeah,
Parole board says you'll stay.
that's why we kept having kids.
Yeah.
Good luck with that weight loss program.
Thank you.
There you go.
Great.
Don't get pop, I don't.
So wait.
Party time.
Good job.
Thank you. 25.
All right. All right, next up, we have a public hearing for Plan Amendment 24-01 and Zone Change 24-01. So I'm going to open a public hearing in that interest, and I'm going to call for abstentions from the board for ex parte contact or any conflict of interest. Have none? Okay. So next up, county staff will make the presentation with regard to these requests.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Sydney Mulder, Planning Manager for the Community Development Department. And today's public hearing is regarding Planning Files PA 24-01 and ZC 24-01, which is a proposal to amend the Polk County Comprehensive Plan designation and zoning designation for an area approximately 0.3 acres in size. So the subject property consists of one parcel, which I have highlighted on the map, but it also extends to the center line of the public right-of-way, both along West Perrydale Road and Perrydale Road. So altogether, that's about 0.3 acres. This image also shows that there's a relatively large structure on the property, but I wanted to note that the structure was recently removed after the photograph was taken, so it's currently vacant of any structures. The current comprehensive plan designation is public, and the current zoning designation is public and private education facilities. The proposed comprehensive plan designation is unincorporated community commercial, and the proposed zoning designation is unincorporated community commercial general. On June 25th, 2024, the Polk County Planning Commission held a public hearing for this matter and recommended that the Board of Commissioners approve the proposal as recommended in the staff report, which was provided as Exhibit A in the memorandum that was provided to the board last week. The memorandum also includes a detailed description of the proposal, the applicable review and decision criteria, and associated findings, and a copy of additional written testimony that was provided after the Planning Commission's recommendation. Additional written testimony from the applicant's representative was also submitted into the record on August 7th, which was provided to the board prior to this hearing. Notice of today's hearing and the June 25th hearing was provided in accordance with Polk County Zoning Ordinance Chapter 111. Based on evidence in the record, staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners approve this application as recommended by the Planning Commission, subject to one condition of approval that would require a non-remonstrance deed restriction that specifies the vision clearance would still be applicable to the subject property, which is the vision clearance standard is found in PCZO 112.140.
Thanks, Sydney. All right, is there an applicant's representative here?
Can I make a statement first?
Sure, you can.
Okay, the applicable review and decision criteria can be found in the staff report prepared for the Board of Commissioners. All testimony shall be directed towards the legal and applicable criteria. Failure to raise an issue with specificity to allow the decision makers an opportunity to respond to that issue will preclude an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals. The Polk County Board of Commissioners decision on the matter will constitute the final local decision.
Thank you. You saved me from having to say all of that in my process. Good job.
You're welcome.
Please come forward.
Good morning. My name is Caroline Seelick, and I'm part of the team that represents the applicant in this proposal. And we would just like to convey our agreement with staff's findings, as well as the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval for our proposal, and happy to answer any questions that you may have today.
Doesn't look like there is anything at this point.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you. All right, next up is public testimony, and note that all testimony evidence must be directed toward the applicable factual and legal criteria as identified in the record and or during this meeting. Is there anyone here that wishes to give public testimony? All right. All right. Next up, there shouldn't be any rebuttal by the applicant. Questions from the board?
Just a quick question. I know the planning commission, it says in our ordinance, shall consider the most appropriate zone. Were there others considered other than the commercial zone by the planning commission?
No, staff recommended, the applicant proposed the commercial zoning designation. Staff reviewed that proposal and concurred that was an appropriate zone and made that recommendation to the Planning Commission. The property has some significant site constraints that limit the ability to likely establish an on-site sewage disposal system. And so the commercial zone and the industrial zone are the two zones within the unincorporated community of Perrydale that would be able to accommodate a holding tank. Because you can use a holding tank in lieu of a standard system for commercial uses and industrial uses. And therefore, we concurred that the commercial zone was the most appropriate zone for that subject property. And the Planning Commission agreed.
Thank you.
I don't have anything either. All right. No further questions, or comments, so I will close this hearing and close the record and put this in the hands of the board. What's your preference?
Well, if it's okay to, did I see a hand raised? No. Okay. To combine in one motion, I support both staff recommendations. So I'd like to move to approve the amendment presented in plan amendment 24-01 and the zone change presented in zone change 24-01.
I would second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Thank you, staff team. Okay, next up is Polk County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Mr. Bender and Eric Knudsen. Thanks, team, for being here. I know this was lots of hard work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. I'm Eric Knudsen. I'm the Senior Planner with Community Development, and I'm joined by Dean Bender, the Emergency Manager of Polk County. We are here today to discuss an update to the Polk County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is in the final stages of being completed. I'll pass it over to Dean to share some background information about the plan, why it's important, and how it's funded. And then afterwards, I'll explain the planning process and how the plan was developed and how this plan is structured.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Give a little background because I know Mr. Hanson likes that. The Federal Emergency Management Agency defines mitigation as an effort to reduce loss of life and property by lessening the impact of disasters through risk analysis, which results in information that provides foundation for mitigation activities that reduce risk. That is what this plan is all about. Back in 2000, FEMA required the communities to have these plans in place to basically to get mitigation dollars to help with local projects. Over the course of the last 25 years, the plan is involved here at Polk County. It went from a single countywide plan to a multi-jurisdictional plan where we had the cities involved. A lot of work has happened in the last 25 years. Back in 2021, let me back up. We've been working with Oregon Emergency Management since 2021 to identify more funding for our plan to update it. That fund was identified in 2022 because our last plan was approved in 2017. It's a long process. But once we got those funds identified, then we had a problem with the backlog and potential vendors to help us with the project because there's these experts out there that are really good at this. University of Oregon is one of the best out there, I believe, and they're the ones that helped us with our plan. I'm happy to report first of all, I want to recognize Eric and all his work he did on this. He took the lead on this and he did a phenomenal job. I mean, it's not an easy project, but trying to get all the partners together, I think Eric just did fabulous. Anyway, the last month we did receive pending approval from FEMA that our plan met all the criteria, and there's a checklist they have to go through that you have to meet all these different items, which we did. And so Polk County has benefited greatly over the last several years from these grants and being able to access these grants. For example, seismic rehabilitation grants here in Polk County. Whitworth Elementary received over $700,000. Lock Rail received over $2 million. $2.5 million went to Fall City for their gym, and so as well as several other projects across the county. One thing that I'm not really proud of, but I want to put it on the record because Mr. Hanson will probably call me out on it anyway. Polk County has received 11 major disasters since 1964. I started in 2004. We've had 8 since I started. So it might be a correlation. Mr. Hanson likes to point that out to me, but
Oslo.
yeah. So but anyway, by having this plan, we were able to do some projects locally. The county and Austin's group was instrumental in helping getting a home raised in Polk County with this, having this plan in place. There was a repetitive loss, for flood loss. So anyway, this plan is well-written. I think it's the best one I've seen, that we've had over the years. So I'm really hoping that the board will agree to, approve this plan, and, I will turn it back over to Mr. Eric.
Yeah, thank you. So as Dean mentioned, we worked closely with the Oregon Partnership of Disaster Resilience at the University of Oregon. So they helped us develop this plan and helped us ensure that it met all the FEMA requirements. There's also a collaborative effort with the cities of Dallas, Falls City, Independence, and Monmouth. And so our plan has 3 volumes. It's how it's structured. The first volumes are basic plan, which has an introduction to hazard mitigation planning, as well as a hazard assessment for 9 different natural hazards. So those hazards are drought, earthquakes, extreme heat events, flooding, landslides, volcano, windstorm, winter storm, and wildfire. This volume includes mitigation strategies and implementation and maintenance requirements for the plan. There are certain activities we do on an annual basis in order to implement our plan, and that's called our action items. So as part of this update, we removed 5 of those action items, and we have not added any new ones. Our second volume includes our appendices, that includes our glossary and acronyms, and as well as documentation of the planning and development process, including all the activities that our steering committees completed during our review. Our public participation process, which included a public survey report, and any notable changes to our updated plan. This section also includes a community profile of the county and an economic analysis of any natural hazard mitigation projects. And then lastly, information about grant programs and other resources to the county. Our final volume is each city's addendum. And so because this is a multi-jurisdictional plan, each city has a specific section that they have to individually adopt and addresses their own individual risk assessments. The purpose of this is because we really do individual jurisdictions rather than look at the county as a whole. As we've mentioned, FEMA approved the hazard mitigation plan on July 1st, 2024. And that was part of their pre-adoption review. And so they're just pending local adoption at this point. That being said, staff recommends that the board open up the meeting for any public comments and recommends that the board approve the Polk County multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan by resolution 2 weeks from today.
Very good presentation. Thank you. I have a question, and I will open the public comment part. Thank you for that reminder. But I guess my question is, and this is kind of an age-old challenge with these kinds of documents, will anybody ever actually open this book again before it's time to update to the next version? So I guess it goes to you as emergency management. Is this a document that you can use to, in the event of an emergency, that you can say, here was our plan, here's what we're supposed to do. We actually follow this during an event.
That's more of the operations plan, not the mitigation plan. This is kind of before that, try to help prepare so we don't have problems or mitigate less of a problem. Like, for example, an action item could be, getting information out to the public, having stuff on your website. I mean, it could be, low cost dollars for us, getting that kind of information out. That could be an action item. And we have to report on it under the EMPG, my grant that I work under. I have to report on our progress every quarter. So we have to convene 2 meetings every year with our committee to talk about how well we've done. So in a sense, we do open it. It's just one of those things that's out there. We have to deal with it, or we're not going to get funding next time going around, and we're not going to do that. So
sorry to dig down into the meat and potatoes of this document, but who opens this book? Who opens these documents? And besides yourself for reporting requirements,
Yeah.
Does anyone actually read it?
Well, I believe cities, they all have pieces as well, and they're all going to apply for certain grants, like these ones I mentioned. So they have to know what they're going for. I mean, because with these grants, they're graded on your mitigation. If you identified these issues, you have a better chance of getting grant funding.
That helps. Austin wants to talk.
Just to fully answer your question, the plan identifies action items and the agency is responsible for implementing those action items. And I work with Dean on an annual basis to go through and evaluate the progress that we're making, that each agency is making on implementing those action items. And then we try to ensure that they're being implemented within the time frame that we've identified within the plan. And if they're not, we're able to come back and figure out why we're not able to do that. And then we can make a recommendation to the board either to modify or change that action item so that it's more actionable for the agency that's responsible. So it is opened by more than just Dean. We community development assists Dean in that, and then we try to police the other agencies, which could be public works. It could be the community development department that may have action items. It could be emergency management that has action items to ensure that those are being implemented to reduce our risk.
Thank you. That's helpful. My intent in that line of questioning is to tease out, this isn't just we all get frustrated with strategic plans, for example, and we develop them and spend all this time and money and then put them on a shelf. And so just trying to tease out, it isn't just something that we spend a bunch of time and money on and put it on the shelf. There is a process of reviewing it, taking action with certain things. So that's what I'm after.
A quick question. In terms of the action planning and then the convening of stakeholders, are public utilities, private utilities involved in this, in these discussions? Thinking especially power utilities, gas, natural gas.
So not necessarily power utilities, but we notified all of our water districts, fire districts, and then people, water districts, fire districts were all notified of this project and they were given the opportunity to provide comments on the plan and review the actual draft plan. Then we also notified all the appropriate county agencies. We notified any county stakeholders. We notified the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. We notified academia, all the school districts in the county, all of we have a citizen notification group that's available for planning, so you can subscribe and get any notification of planning items and planning actions being taken. So we sent a notification to all those individuals as well.
Mm-hmm. But so I'm guessing the power companies, for example, have their own hazard mitigation plans. Just curious if there's any integration. It sounds like we kind of get that public and private separate. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Mr. Knudsen can open the file that he has and actually look at our list and confirm that. I believe that our power companies we have a very long notification list that includes our utilities. I think he can verify that right now by opening the record and looking at that list.
That's okay. I'm just curious.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. So I will open the meeting for public comments. If anyone has any public comments to inject. We don't have anybody online that's looking, okay. And we don't have anything in writing that's been submitted, right? All right, hearing none. What's the pleasure of the board?
I would make a motion that we adopt the updated Polk County multi-jurisdictional natural hazard mitigation plan as
Just
presented.
needed to hear you say that whole line like that. Perfect.
Cool, yeah.
Does the motion need to include direction to staff to draft a resolution adopting this?
And I'll add that to it.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I'm not going to repeat that whole thing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously, and we will see that back here for final resolution in 2 weeks. Thanks, team. Good job.
Good, thank you.
All right, I'm guessing we will not be meeting in executive session today.
Correct, sir.
Thank you. So anything else to come before this board? Hearing none, we are adjourned.